Hello, my name is Emily Cartwright, and this is Culinary 1100 Intro to Culinary Skills and Techniques. And today we'll be making banana leaf wrapped fish.
For this mise en place, I did show you the finished products of the leeks, fennel, lemons, wine, fillets, garlic, tomato, and my banana leaves as well, which were boiled and then shocked in ice water. So I started off with my fish fillets. They did not come with any skin or bones, but it was the only fresh ones that were available in any of my stores. But they were too big, so I did cut them down to 6-ounce fillets, which you see me cutting and scaling, and then putting into the metal container beside. Now in that metal container, I did salt and pepper these fillets before assembling. Just keep in mind, in between these takes, I did sanitize and I wiped down everything. And it's just editing where I put the fish first and everything. So I'm going to start with my leeks, which I cut in half long ways and then cut in half again, just to make them into the 2-inch pieces. So now I'm just going to cut it long ways, and since these are already very layered and very thin, then cutting it this way is no problem. Now I've been practicing on just curving my fingers so I'm not cutting anything, but with the leeks they slip a lot, so it was a little bit complicated to get used to begin with. But here they all turned out pretty nice, and the ones that didn't I did pull to the side and fix them up after. So to make sure this video wasn't too long, I did edit out cutting because it was entirely too long to be doing all of this and weighing it and putting it out. So after wiping down my board again, I just started to work on my lemons, which is just slices, and I ended up with 8 pieces, which is exactly what I needed in this point. I did end up throwing one out because it did kind of curve and wasn't really what I needed. So now we wipe down a board again, and we're just going to work on our garlic. So I'm going to cut off the ends, then I'm just going to smush them down and remove the peelings. So here I'm just going to cut them long ways just to get them into smaller pieces so I can start to mince it. So this is pretty constant, but I'm just rocking back and forth until it's to the size of mince, which is very tiny. And near the end, I am adding salt in there to pull out any moisture just to make it easier to mince it up. And there's the finished minced garlic. So now, after showing off the minced garlic and putting it away, we're going to sanitize and wash the board again. And we're going to move on to fennel. Now, fennel was a bit more complicated for me. It was a little hard to cut it julienne. And I wasn't really sure how to go about it, but I know I removed the core at the bottom after cutting it into quarters to make it easier to chop. Now, the smell of the fennel was actually quite refreshing. I wasn't sure. It kind of had a hint of mint and like onion mixed together, but not really defined. It's quite weird to explain, but it's not an ingredient I usually work with. So after cutting it into quarters and after it being washed, I just cut it as thinly as possible. So it did come out a little ununiform because the layers of it wasn't quite the same. But I did go along and fix it and separate it. But it's definitely an ingredient that I would love to work with more. And just know more about prepping it. So where I'm putting it is just on the scale to get the 8 ounces that I need of the fennel. So now we just moved on to the setup for my steaming basket, with just the water in the basket. So as that's heating up for the steam basket, I'm going to pull out my boiled and shocked banana leaves. Get all the... just lay it right down flat. And then I'm going to rub it with clarified butter. There we go, and after we rub it with clarified butter, I'm just going to add 2 pieces of lemon. I'm going to lay the fish right over it. Now this is salt and peppered fish, pre-seasoned from me. And now I'm going to just top with fennel, leek, tomato, and garlic, and then I'm going to drizzle it with white wine. Here we go in with the fennel, just laying it right on top. Now, looking back at this recipe after making it, I would have definitely added either more lemon or lemon juice or just more acidity, because I feel like that really brings out the salmon flavor. Now there I am, just adding the garlic on top. It was a bit complicated to get off the glove. Now none of these ingredients were used for anything after, and a lot of them were already used up, so there's no case in cross-contamination here. But if I were to be using ingredients for something else, I would have definitely used tongs or spoons or forks. So there I am, just drizzling the wine over, and I'm just going to wrap it. Now the banana leaf was not working with me in this video. It was a bit fragile. Now I don't usually work with banana leaves, so I'm not sure if that's what it's meant to be. But working around it, making sure every piece of the fish is enwrapped in here. So I'm just going to push it to the side, and I'm going to complete this with the 3 other fillets. just finishing putting the fish into my steam basket, which has been heating up since the beginning of prepping this fish. Now, the fish did sit for 10 to 12 minutes. Now, one piece was a little bit bigger, so I did have to leave it in there for about a minute or two longer. So here, I'm just cutting open my finished product. Right, it was a little bit warm, but we worked around it. So I'm just gonna temp it right here, right? And if you can't see right, it does say it reached up to 149 degrees, which is 4 degrees over the temp for fish. So it just... Now salmon is good under the 140 temp, which is right, it's not really that flaky, but I didn't really want to take that risk. So it tasted absolutely amazing. I love the taste of fennel, which I don't usually have, so I wasn't really sure what I was expecting from it. The tomato was nice and refreshing, and the leeks, it wasn't really prominent, but it was just very good.